to navigate through all of this. Hi knitters, welcome to PJ Knits. My name's Penny and I live in Central Illinois, and I'm a knitter, a blogger, and a YouTube podcaster. Thanks for coming by today on my knitting journal, where I'm going to talk about my knitting. And at the very end, I'll have a couple of reflections. So if you don't want to stay all the way to the end for the personal stuff or my thoughts, you can cut it off later. But for now, I'm glad you're here, and I want to talk about some knitting and some things that are, kind of going on. So first of all, it's a good day here in Central Illinois for a little cuppa. I have in my cup coconut creamer, and my friend Brenda brought me back from Kentucky bourbon-infused Buffalo Trace coffee, and that's what I'm having this afternoon. And with a little bit of creamer, coconut creamer, it is delish. And in my llama cup that also came from Brenda a few years back for my birthday. So take a sip. Everybody take a sip in your cuppa while you've got it. Grab something. We'll talk about the weather in Central Illinois first. This is Wednesday, June 8th, 2022, and it's rainy here in Central Illinois. 66 degrees, so it's cooler than I thought it was going to be. And I really thought by now we would have some sunshine and I'd have a little bit brighter light. But I don't think this light's too bad on a kind of sort of overcast day. I am going to tell you about my knitting. And let's just say this is all off the cuff, guys, kind of, sort of. I don't do any editing, so what you see is what you get. And this is how I am normally, too, as well. So let's just talk about a few things about the knitting. First up, what am I wearing? Well, let's talk about that later, huh? Sorry about that. Let's start with finished objects. Unfortunately, right now I only have one to share with you. And that's another reason I wanted to podcast today, because tomorrow is hospice, and I'm heading back with the hospice prayer shawl group from the hospice home in Peoria. I'm heading back tomorrow to start knitting with them again, and I'm so looking forward to seeing them all and knitting with them. I fully believe in the cause and in the home out there as well. We're not able to actually knit in the home right now because of COVID and restrictions, so we are at a nearby church that has graciously opened up their doors to us and has a big space. So I am totally looking forward to seeing them all tomorrow and knit with them and get back on a couple of times a month knitting. So my finished object is another Heavenly Heathers. I think when I put this on my Ravelry page, and I have on my Ravelry page, I'm Penny J, and the group is PJ Knits on Ravelry. So, and I'm PJ Knits on Instagram. I tried to get the PJ Knits, I've told this story before, on Ravelry, and I think it's somebody who has passed away, and they don't ever call the list. So I'm Penny J on there from the beginning, but PJ Knits is our group. Penny J is my Ravelry ID, and I'm PJ Knits on Instagram. So I'd love for you to follow me in all of those venues, along with, I have a blog, as I said, www.pjknits.blogspot.com, that I try and post every few days. And there's some knitting, there's some personal stuff, there's knitting on the porch, there's a lot of things on that. So if you want to check that out at any time, great. But anyway, when I went out onto my Ravelry page to put this one in, I think this is about Heavenly Heathers number 12. I've talked about this pattern before. It's out of one of the 60 Cascade knit books, the blankets. And I have knit it for years because it's great for babies. You can do a lot with it with different colors, and it's perfect, I think, for hospice as well, for a blanket if you're looking for a blanket, or just in general, if you wanted to make it larger, you certainly could do that as well. I'm using leftovers for mine right now, leftover cascades, and this particular one was also a few years back for a baby, and I had leftovers, and so I just took a strand of cream Pacific Cascade and added to each of my leftovers, and so I'm calling this kind of popsicle colors because that's what it kind of reminds me of, summer popsicle colors. And I started this one just a few, maybe right after the last one that I showed you. I know I talked about it before, maybe about the first week in May. It was like the first week, early in May. So, and finished it because I wanted to have it for hospice. But I'm using all leftovers, the purple, a rosy pink, the turquoise was from another one. And then this is tonic. This is tonic, but it's almost the same weight as it, and then a yellow. So I thought this was very cheery and very summery and very, and I'm, like I said, I'm calling it popsicles. Popsicle colors. But again, Heavenly Heathers. I do like this, and this is a cast on of 90 stitches with on a size 11. And so it's fairly large. And I think these are about 6.5 to 7 inch chunks. This one is larger because I had a little bit more left of it, but I wanted to use all up of the skein that I could. And then, like I said, and it's done, you know, seed border to start with, and I think 5 or 6 stitches to seed. But this is a Carol Sokolsky pattern. And again, you can go out on Ravelry and check all the ones that I've done. This is a very good blanket as well for the red, white, and blues that we do for the veterans out at the hospice as well. So I've showed that before, talked about those before, but that's really my only finished object. I do have upstairs drying on the bed my Comfort Fade Cardi. Remember that one from earlier in the winter? Finally decided to get it out yesterday and block it. I was on the fence about, I was on the fence about blocking it or blocking it too much, and finally decided just to put it down in the water because it was a little wrinkled. And so it's blocking upstairs, but with the humidity that's out there with the rain, it's not fully dry. So I'll have something to show you next time. The windows are open, so you're going to hear birds or cars or whatever's going on down the road as well. So anyway, so let's talk about books and bags. Y'all know I love books, and last week I was at our local yarn shop, the Fiber Universe. She has still a stack of these left. I was there on Tuesday again, and she has a stack, but she got in the worsted book from La Bien-Aimée. It was curated by Amy Gillet of La Bien-Aimée in conjunction with Lina magazine. And these are all, I thought originally this was a book about patterns that she had created and used with her new worsted yarn, Corey. And then come to find out after I was looking in the book, this is all different designers, all curated. There's Andrea Mowry is in here. Sylvia Watts Cherry. There is Stephen West is in here. There is a cool color work one here. Azucena cardigan. That I love this one. I'm loving on that one. And it's just a wealth of designers in here. Plus a little summer picture. You know, it so reminds me of summer. Doesn't it remind you of summer? All curated by her and put together. Just some really good ones. Nancy Marchand, Andrea Mowry, Stephen West, Nadia Clayton-Lechen, Sasha Green, Thien Q Lam, Maxime Cyr, Tiff Nayland, and Sylvia Watts Cherry, and then Noragon as well. And there's just, you know, as I looked through it, there was so many that I thought these would be very interesting to knit on. And just push yourself a little bit further. There's a lovely scarf in here. And I'm loving on that gold these days. I'm becoming so many dyers and others, people who are doing designers out there, they are doing so many of those golds. And I think I could do the golds. So, and I talked about it probably the last couple of years. There's a couple of, from a making magazine, Making Stories or something like that from several years back that are in those bronzy golds. And let's just say this, you can be sure that I'm going to have one of those colorways before the year is out. Here's one, it's tucked in, and I do believe this one has like a front that goes like that I would definitely just knit straight across. Yeah, here's a picture of it, and I would just revamp that for me, but I love that detail on the front, but I would just make that longer and go over straight. That's perennial. It's called perennial. But there's some really super. There's a shawl in here with cables. And so I just think that there's some potential here. And if you just want to do some simple color work, this has my eyes on it as well. Simple, easy little color work to do for winter. And, inspiration on the colors as well. This particular one, I am loving as well. And they show it in the book in a teal as well, but it shows up much better here. And I would definitely do this one with some modifications. I would make it longer for certain. And I might change that sleeve so it doesn't hit me right there. Although, even though it's a drop shoulder here, way drop shoulder, for me, it comes right across about at the waist length for me probably. It wouldn't be as bad because I have but I have a thinner waist than I do in anything else. So anyway, this is the worsted book by Amy of La Bien-Aimée. And like I said, my local yarn shop just got it in last Friday, and of course I had to have one. So I wanted to share that with you. And then in the bag department, I haven't gotten any new bags lately. I've been very, very good. But I got an order on Sunday, and so I have a new bag that came with it as a little freebie from Pearl Soho, and I think this is going to house some knitting that I'm going to tell you about in a little bit. So I do have a new bag to share with you from Pearl Soho that was in with the yarn that I got. So anyway, and so that's books and bags. Next up is mail call, and I'm going to share some yarn that I purchased. And I've been on the fence about this for a little bit, and Pearl Soho had a sale over Memorial Day weekend, and I decided I want to cast on something. And but I'm committed to these summer sweaters, right? And Summer of Shawls is coming up in a couple of weeks, so I'm kind of committed to those things right now. So I didn't want to necessarily, cast on another sweater, even though I'm going to tell you about what I want to do. But so I made a decision on Christmas presents this year, and so I last summer, amongst everything that was going on in our world here. I had started in the springtime the half and half triangle wrap and did it for me. And the thing I like about this particular shawl wrap, whatever, is it's a couple things. For me, it's all garter, and as a lot of people have said before, it's a nice project to be knitting on when you just need to kick back, maybe. And for me, I needed that quite a bit last summer, in June-ish, July. And so it was for that for me, but it also was when we were making trips over to Iowa. It was a nice project to take along because I knew if I had most of one of the hanks of linen quill with me, that's a weekend more. For me, it was more than a weekend project. So when I went over there, I only had to take that one skein, and I had something that I could easily put down and pick up when I wanted to because it was all in garter. And I also have come to find out this spring, this has been a perfect type wrap for me when I go out on the porch early morning when it's a little chilly, and so I can just fold that in half so it's triangular, and go out and just wrap it around me and sit on the porch in my jammies and still be warm, but also be covered up a little bit. Not that I have to, because my neighborhood is really quiet early in the morning, but you just never know. So anyway, I got this bright idea over Memorial Day weekend that I'd like to knit a couple of these for Christmas gifts for my daughter-in-laws. And so I was vacillating on all of the colorways, so I came up with two. This first one, and this is really the black, and this is the real hot pink in person. And I'm going to start with the black because I think this is going to be so much fun to knit with that I need to get the basics of this one done, okay? So I bought that for one, and then I have this for the other. This was a bundle that was on there, and it's 2 purples. And let's see, I don't know if they give you the names on this. Oh, Crocus Bud. And this one is Purple Smoke. So that's going to be another one. And then let me tell you about these 2. Kettle Black. And this one is Rhubarb Pink. So that's going to be one. I'm going to start with this one because I think this is going to be the most fun. I don't like how that sounded, but you know, different, the most different for me. So then while I was at it, I've been kicking around that I want to try to do a sweater out of it again for me. And so I decided to order this for me. It's the cobalt blue. Now it's a little bit off from the turquoise, guys. Okay, I am going another direction just a tad, but it's really a bright blue, and I think that will be so cool. Now I have not figured out definitely what sweater this is going to be, but it's going to be for later in the summer into fall for transition. So that's really where I'll be knitting this later this summer for my transitionals. And I'm thinking about the pattern that's on the Pearl Soho website, which is called the Daily Pullover. And it's a V-neck. I would lengthen it from what shows on the website. The other option is I've been kicking around, and I talked about that earlier this spring, about the ground pepper, making modifications to that to take one pattern and use different ways. So this may be something that I might do with that as well, but that is to be determined. So those were my linen quill purchases, and they came on Sunday. And I was waiting, and I kept thinking, yeah, it ought to be coming. And the mailman came up Sunday when Debbie and I were sitting out on the porch, and he brought, and I knew exactly what it was. So it was so much fun to have that fun mail come in on Sunday. So, okay. Let's talk about summer sweaters. You know, I want it throughout the summer. We're going to continue to talk summer sweaters and summer tees. If you are, if you watch other podcasts or follow on Instagram, The Knitting Place, you know, they are always giving us some great ideas for summer tees. Both of these that I have knit and I am going to show you today are purchases from last year from The Knitting Place, but still patterns that you can get and still some fun summer sweaters. And I wanted to share these 2 with you today. They are both out of Sandus Garn, Lina yarn. I purchased both of the yarns last year from The Knitting Place, and after seeing both of them on their daily Instagram and then also on their Monday podcast. So anyway, the first one that I'm going to tell you and show you, this is a petite knit. This is called Anchor's Summer Shirt. I love this pattern. And you know, and I've said it before, petite knit, she has simplistic, wearable patterns, I believe. And so there are so many that I want to knit from her. Every time I see one, I'm like, even ones that have, you know, a lot of stitches to them, or the mohair. She got me started on mohair, where I never thought I would want to do mohair sweaters. But again, you know, mohair is having its day and has had its day for the last couple of years, so how can you not? But anyway, this is Anchor's Summer Shirt out of the Lina yarn from Sandus Garn, and I really do like this. All of my modifications and my things that I did are on my Ravelry project page, and I did this one in a size large. I do know that. And as always, I picked extra stitches up underneath the arms and lengthened it a little bit longer as well, because again, you know my story, guys. Anyway, so that is just a nice summer sweater. I have worn it already, and it just feels good. I enjoyed working with the yarn, and this is kind of in a rosy color. And again, I just can't say enough. It was fun. There was some great interest in the neckline, in the yoke, and so I'm just, I recommend it as a summer sweater if you just want a nice little summer tee. I think it's also flattering around the neck as well, so you might want to, just try it out. And the next one on my mani is called Snowbell. Again, this is in Lina yarn from last year from the Knitting Place. This is in the petrol colorway. It's a denim-y blue. And at the time I knew I wanted something, because I'm living in denims right now, guys. That is my bottom of choice. And so, whereas others you can say, oh, they're always in black pants, or they're in, they're in this or that. Pretty certain that I'm going to be in denim that's what I'd wear right now, because that's what I'm comfy in. So I wanted something that would go well with denim. And I have a really cool blue Coach purse that goes well with this ensemble, along with a pair of Allbirds skimmer shoes that I bought several years ago that go with it well. And it just really, I think, completes the look. But anyway, this is Snowbell. It is a Sandus Garn pattern out of a book. And last year you had, in order to buy the book from, and I think that's still the case, in order to buy the book that this is in, you have to buy the yarn. That's the only way the Knitting Place could sell it. And so I did both, because there's summer sweaters in here. I have talked about this book before, that there are ones that I want to investigate. And so it was a okay purchase for me. It was a good purchase to be able to get it to have other ones. But I love this Snowbell. I love this detail. And again, had some great interest around the yoke, and then some simple stockinette at the bottom in the round. I'm pretty much spot on the sleeves. And again, my mods are on Ravelry, but I love this. I love the yarn. And I have to tell you, this one too, 2 weeks ago-ish, I washed it for the first time. I wore it last year, and I just washed it and then put it on my sponge boards to dry. So it washes up, hand washes, very nice. And then when it was all dry, they get a little, I want to say crunchy, you know what I mean? Just a little stiffer. And so what I did is just threw it in with some other, at the tail end, some other things that were in my dryer, just for a few minutes, just to fluff it. But it was already dry, so I didn't have to worry about, it shrinking or anything like that. So it was hand washed, blocked out on the bed, and then just to get a little bit more softness, I threw it in the dryer for just a few minutes with other clothes as well. So that's Snowbell. And there's a long sleeve version in here. Again, I've talked about this before. I'm almost certain if you go out, you can buy the pattern by itself now. Maybe on Ravelry, maybe on the Sandus Garn website, I don't know. But I bought the book and the yarn last year from the Knitting Place online. So those are the two summer sweaters that I have that are done, that I love to wear, that I wanted to show you today. So, okay. Next up, I want to talk about play knitting. And that's what I'm calling it, because last weekend, I have been kicking around for a while, and those who follow me, those who have been here before, I've kicked around what I was going to do with some yarn, right? I want to knit on it this year, and I'm just torn. I've been torn on a couple of different things. It's called Bel Viso. I've talked about it before, I've shown it, I've blogged about it, and all of that. So last weekend, I kept thinking I wanted to do something in stripes, because there's a stripe along that I want to do. And so I'm thinking, I bought some yarn, some lace weight yarn. That's kind of a woolly yarn, let's put it that way. And I thought, okay, maybe I could do another rocket tee. Okay, I was kind of in my thought process. Maybe I could make this work. My Bel Viso, and then this lace weight yarn I bought. So what I did is I decided last Saturday that I would do a little play knitting, that I would do a swatch to see if those yarns could play well together, I guess is what I was looking for, and to see if there was any other possibles besides the Edie, if this would work in a striped sweater. And so I did a little playing, as I said, and in my journal, because I want to make sure that I kept tabs of what was going on in my journal, and you all know I have a knitting journal. I've been keeping a knitting journal for many years. What I did is I cast on 30 stitches on a size 5 needle, and I started out and I put in my journal what this was, how many strands I was doing, what strands I was doing. I measured it and how many stitches I had before blocking, and then I blocked it, and I put in my journal also how many stitches it was after blocking. So for the future, if I wanted to use any of these yarns by themselves, I would already have done my swatch. And then I listed in my journal a few of the patterns that I thought, well, possibles that I could do with combining these yarns. And so I put that all in my journal. I put rocket tea. I put ground pepper because I'm thinking I want to use that. I want to develop something out of that pattern. I did Edie, and I did this lazy summer top and I thought that was secondary. It had, the lazy summer has lace around the top, and you use just this much, and it's just a lace, and you do a lace weight yarn, and then the rest is a sport weight in a solid, just a solid stockinette. So those were possibilities for both of these yarns being put together, and so I just put them in my journal as possibles. Along with, next to them, I wrote down what the gauge was, recommended gauge was for the pattern. So give you a little idea of what it looks like. And then as I worked through it, I put next to the ones a little X if they were like, no, I don't think that's going to work, for several reasons. I didn't like the gauge. I didn't like the openness of it. I didn't like and ultimately, I didn't like the way the two yarns went together in a striping, because I thought the one muddies up the other one. So anyway, here's what I did. And as you can see, this one's much darker. And I think if I tried to do it as a stripe detail, I think it really muddies it up. The top one is 2 strands of lace, and that may be a little bit better. This is the Belviso all by itself, and then this is 1 strand, and you can see it does make a little bit of a change. This really, with 1 strand, same size 5 needle all along on 30 stitches, this really, and it's not just the light, this gets muddier as you get when you use 1 strand. It's a little bit brighter on the other. So after living with it for a couple of days and really looking at it, I made the decision. I think they just don't play well together, the two, as in a stripe. I don't think that I want to do that. I think that the Belviso by itself is much brighter and needs to be just a summer shirt all by itself. So I was just doing a little bit of play knitting. I've got it in my journal so that when I'm ready, for future things, I can do that, and then maybe a rocket tee in something else down the road. But not that I have to, because I already have one, right? We talked about that before as well. So I just think overall right now the Edie is best suited for it. And there's also a knit along with knitting with Kim and Jana. They're doing Mayak yarns, and they're also doing Isabel Kramer's patterns, and that's what this is. So I kind of think that's where I'm going. Again, I've not cast on it yet. It's still, I'm still working on a couple of other things, and I need to complete them before I cast on. And so I'm patting myself on the back for not having cast on yet, because I really want to cast on that Belviso and get started on that. But as you will see, I have other things that I need to be knitting on, along with Christmas knitting, all right? So anyway, right now that's on hold, but I'm kind of thinking that particular one, unless I see something on Instagram or through the knitting place again that I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's what that was meant to be. So it's waiting. I'm 60% sure that it's going to be an Edie, but we'll find out as a later date, as will you. Okay. So what is on my whips? Well, I am still working on the lovely tea. I am to the point where I am doing all the stockinette on it. This is by Kimberly McAlinden. I am still working on it and reassess my timeline. I definitely am going to have this done before we start Summer of Shawls. So that is where I am at on it. And you have about, pattern calls for 13.5. I tried it on yesterday, everybody. I put it on my barber cords, which I love these. And I tried it on and it is fitting just at the top like I want. It's not going to be super loose on me. But as I go down towards the hip, I may go up a couple of needle sizes just to get a little bit more flare out of it. But I know that when I block it, that it's going to grow. And so I am working along on it. That's the summer tea. So most definitely, I've recessed the timeline on that. And I will be having that done before summer starts and the Summer of Shawls. So I'm working on that. That is my go-to in public. I have a couple of projects that are black yarns or navy yarns, and so I can't really knit on those at nighttime. Pardon me. And so I'm going to try and keep my lovely tea more for the evenings, and it's a perfect project for knitting in public, knitting down at the riverfront. So I don't have much to show you on my Darth Vader cape that's in my bag. It's the black one, and I still have a ways to go on that, so there's nothing new to show. It's just black. And then one of the other projects that I am working on for hospice is this particular one. I am doing a half and half wrap triangle out of it. This is out of stashed yarn out of an alpaca that I knit a sweater out of Soundtrack a few years back. That was a 4th of July knit along with Marie Green. And so I'm knitting on it right now, and it's going to be navy and gray. And so I think this one's going to go to hospice. So again, this is a little bit darker yarn, and not as easily, at nighttime, because I kind of keep the lights low when I'm watching TV. So I am working on that particular one. And again, this particular deadline I have given me for 7/15, and I kind of spaced out the other ones, Christmas knitting ones. Like, my plan is to accomplish what I want to for my Christmas knitting already. My plan is that this one has to be done by July 15th, and then I'm giving myself 6 weeks for each of those. And I think that's very doable because I'll be doing a little bit of traveling, some over to Iowa and some on a knitting adventure. And so that's my timeline on these Christmas gifts, is that I will give them about 6 weeks on each one. So so that I have them done, and then I can plan accordingly going forward. So right now, Summer of Shawls for me is going to be a lot of my down knitting is going to be on these linen quill half and halves, which is quite all right, and will see me through. So, okay, what is next? I'm wondering something, and I'd like for you to comment below. Let me know if you don't comment and you say this is not something I want to do, or if you just don't comment, then I won't even pursue it. But I was thinking about doing a Wednesday evening Zoom, whether it be a couple of times a month, or if it's every Wednesday. Wednesday night seemed to be right now. Wednesday seems to be my day where I'm not going and doing anything. And during the summer, I think It's very quiet. There's not much to watch on TV. I do watch the Cardinal baseball games, but sometimes, Wednesdays can be a kind of a slow day. I know the weekends are too. Sundays are kind of quiet as well. But I'm just wondering, is anybody interested in doing a Wednesday night Zoom, say 6 o'clock Central Time to whenever, I suppose? I have a Zoom account. I have renewed it another month, and I keep thinking I should either use that or get rid of it. So I thought, well, what about if we did a Wednesday night Zoom for all of you or those who want to join PJ Knits and just talk knitting, sit and knit together with a beverage of your choice, whether it be a cuppa or wine or a cocktail, whatever. So just comment below. Let me know if that's something you want to do. If nobody responds, I'll assume that we don't need to do that, and you don't want to do that, and don't want to make friends across the nation and the world. That's fine as well. Or I don't mean that. Don't want to make friends. I mean you just don't want to Zoom. That's what I mean. Because a lot of us are introverts, and so I'm just wondering. Anyway, I wanted to put that out. If we did the second and fourth Wednesday, we did every Wednesday, we did once a month. Just let me know what you think. And if you don't respond, then I'll know that people are busy. Maybe we'll wait till winter. So, okay. Next time on the podcast, I'm not done, guys, so don't go anywhere. Next time on the podcast, I anticipate that we'll be into Summer of Shawls 22. The official start of summer is June 21st. Something fun is happening because I just, with this podcast, I always have notes so I can remember what I talked about or what I showed you, because I don't want to be doing the same thing every other month, but I know I do repeat some things because I like them, like this and this so much. But anyway, next time I'm starting a new notebook for my notes, and this is a book that I got from Victoria many years ago when we were doing a knit away, and I'm working on my PhD, Projects Half Done in Knitting. So my new knits are going to be in this particular book starting next time, which will be episode 78. I can't believe that. Yep, 78. So this one went from the book I'm currently using. I started with episode 53 and went through today, which is 77. So I think that's super, super cool. So anyway, we're going to be talking about Summer of Shawls, but during the Summer of Shawls, I'm going to cast on the pressed flowers. I'm going to show you some of the shawls that I have knit, and we're going to talk about some shawls that I would like to knit. I'll show you some books on some things, and we'll talk about that. Just some fun things. So I'm hoping you'll come back around and want to engage and maybe talk about that as well. So new subscribers, we have new subscribers. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for commenting below. And joining us. I do appreciate that. That's so much fun to see and to see where you're from. We've connected with several of you, and so it's just it warms my heart, to make new friends, knitting friends. It's just wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. So, and so thanks for your liking and checking us out. If you haven't subscribed, please subscribe. Please like the video, comment below. Tell us what you're knitting on. Tell us about yourself. We'd love to know where you're from, what you're doing, and what you love to knit on. And then tell a friend if you would, A lot of times in our little circle of knitting, we'll talk about, hey, have you seen, not everybody watches podcasts, which is fine. Hey, have you looked at this one? I'm like, oh, no, I haven't seen that one. And some of you have given me some ideas for new ones as well to check out. So I do appreciate that. As well. So a couple of fun things I want to talk about next is knitting adventures. COVID is around here is like popping back up again. And I kind of sort of miss doing the traveling knitting and things like that. So I started last week and I went into, I put it into my knitting journal because I kind of wanted to remember some of this, but I'm trying to think about doing some knitting adventures, some day trips, or for me, because maybe I'll travel with a friend, but maybe they can't go. Maybe I'll just go myself. Maybe it'll be just a day knitting adventure. So I started scoping out places, possibilities called day trip knitting adventures that I could get to in a day and home. And of course it would involve yarn shop. So I have several that are close by in Illinois, but I'm open to anybody. If sometimes you can Google fiber festivals, right? We know that, and I have done that as well. But a lot of times when I think about it, it's too late. It's like, oh, it's this weekend, and I can't get a place to stay, or I can't wrap my head around going that soon, right? So, or make the decision to go. So I've started a list of just some Central Illinois shops that I want to go to. I'm putting them into my journal and calling it Day Trip Knitting Adventures. Some of them could be 3 or 4 hours away. So it might be like a travel up and stay overnight or whatever. So I'm starting to dream about knitting adventures. We'll call it dream adventuring. But if you happen to know of any fiber festivals that are coming up between now and the fall that are in the area of Illinois, Missouri, Indiana, Iowa, Wisconsin, would you let me know? Comment below, or ones that you've been to that you really liked. I know that Wisconsin Sheep and Wool is coming up this September, and so I'm kind of investigating going up there as well. I got to get on that if I want a place to stay, I suppose, and that's usually the problem. But if you know of any of those in those areas that you've been to that you recommend, and if you can recommend a nice place for a person of 1 or 2 to stay, that would be great as well. I would like to know your views on that if you know of any. I think a lot of time word of mouth, suggestions from others is the best way to go, because they can say, yeah, you don't want to stay in this town, or yeah, hey, stay here. This is a good place to stay, safe and easy to get to, or think about maybe taking somebody with you or whatever. So just want to put that out there. Knitting Adventures. I want to do some traveling for since I retired. Basically, we've not been anywhere in 2020. In 2 years, I've not really been anywhere. COVID and everything happened, so it's time to do a little fun trips, just to get away. But not so far that it's right now. Although one never knows, I might be adventurous into, I think I'm reminded of my husband's aunt who lost her husband, probably of the same age I was, or maybe a little younger. And she was like hopping in the car and going, from Indiana to Minnesota by herself. And so it's not that I'm afraid of that. It's just, it would be different. So anyway, comment below if you have any ideas of festivals or anything like that. And again, gas going up. I don't know about you guys, but it was over at $5.28.29 here in my local town yesterday when I came home. So I'm like, yeah, maybe that's why we're not going to travel as much, but maybe just to, and then sometimes you just save for that, right? Just bite the bullet and go if you want to. So anyway, let me know. I have something fun to show you. I have, as a lot of knitters do, I have a lot of stitch markers, and I was keeping them in these little Plano tackle box by certain thing. And then I decided, I want to condense that down because they were pretty big size. I had a couple of them. And so when I was cleaning out a drawer, I came across some sort of dish that was in there. And so I decided to just pull out all of my stitch markers, except for my Cocoa Knits and the ones that my Snoopy ones and my Harry Potter ones that were gifts. I decided to pull them all out, all my other ones, and put them into this glass dish. And it's so much fun. And then on here I have some that are some that I got from 7th Floor Yarn. And they're little tags that you put on when you're casting on 50 and 25, every 50 or 25, so you don't have to count stitches again. So I put them on this leather band that I got this some time ago, along with these special ones that my friend Jelaine made. So the special ones are on that, and then the rest of them, I just, some of them are hooked together. Again, the special ones that I received at certain spots, those were from January Thaw some time ago. Put some of them other ones on. These were from ZKs, some ZKs. And so I just thought it was such fun, and I just kept putting them on there. I've got these that were part of the project from Marie Green some time ago. And others are just kind of thrown in here. So anyway, I just thought this was so much fun. It just makes me smile. And it's kind of like button box, only this is my stitch marker collection. So I still have a little Plano box that has some in there, but I thought I have to share that with you and what fun that is. So anyway, that is that. Last of all, reflections. So I just want to say to you all, thank you so much for all of your reaching out, your condolences, your cards, your Instagram postings, your comments below. I do appreciate that. That warms my heart again. Knitters are fun, aren't they? And I am so grateful of all the knitting friends that I have made, even if it's just virtually, even if we've never met face to face, but we've met through this medium or through Instagram. I just treasure everything and all of you and all of those friends that I've made through knitting. Knitting has really just kind of, it has so made all of this bearable. And I just can't tell you, I'm overwhelmed by the condolences and the reaching out from all of the knitting community and those that I have been around. It's just, I just can't tell you how cool it is. I do appreciate that. So, and I appreciate you coming back each time to listen to me talk about knitting and muddle through and coughing and and all the stuff that comes with this when it's unedited. I do appreciate it because, as other podcasts have said, you know, I don't have anything to sell. You know, it's just, I just want to talk about my knitting and I just want to share it with you. And I want to meet new friends and I want you to inspire me, you know, to go places and to try other things, to try other knitting. This morning I was waiting for the sunshine to come out. And I thought, well, I'm just going to putz around. And so I have talked about all my mini journals. I love a good notebook. And I just got a new one from a friend recently. And which reminded me of the notebooks that I had. And it was like, I really couldn't remember what each one of these were for. And so I thought, you know what, now it's time to designate what my journals are for, my different journals are for, so that I could make sure. And what I found when I was going through the knitting journals was that I was duplicating some things. And so what I did this morning is I made it so I'm not duplicating journals. And I went along and I put little Post-it notes on the inside. So I want to share these journals with you. First of all, this is one that I received. It's called Crazy Ideas. This one came from Lindsay for Knitmas. And this particular one is Crazy Ideas. It's things that I want to remember at Christmas time that I want to do, that I want to embrace the Norwegian heritage, things that I want to be on the lookout for. And so things that I want to do. I want to learn Norwegian. I want to refresh my French because my whole thought is my future has a trip to Norway and Sweden and, you know, and Ireland and the Faroe Islands and the Shetland Islands. And so I'm starting to kind of cull those things, those crazy ideas, the things that I need to be prepared for, right? So that's what my Crazy Ideas book is for. And then a few years back, Allison sent me this one. And this one I've talked about, and I'm going to roundabout back to this eventually. Listen attentively to the world and then write your own. And it says life, but I say write your own story. And this particular book I am designating for writing my own story. What do I want to do with my knitting life? You know, what do I want to give back to the community? What do I want to tell you that might be helpful to you, might inspire you? And so I'm using this as inspiration for you guys and for myself. Where do I want to go? You know, where do I want to go? What's helpful to people in general? Because I want, not only I want to share my knitting with you, but I also want this to be helpful. I want you to think, I didn't think about that. Or, hey, yeah, I heard about that somewhere else. That makes sense. That's my plan. You know, I just want to inspire you. This book I've had for ages and ages and ages. It had been a Vera Bradley book, and it had taken several different turns, and this particular one has notes in it now for major yarn festivals, knitting adventures, and tips, tricks on attending those, as well as what to pack for them. And I have Rhinebeck notes in here, and never have I been to most of these places, but just in case the opportunity rises, I've got notes as to others who have went and what they found beneficial to take. Maryland Sheep and Wool, Edinburgh Yarn Festival, some survival tips, what to absolutely take if I go to knitting retreat, if we go back to Stitches Midwest, my little hot pot for tea and coffee and such in the room, Stitches Midwest essentials, things to take, other things that I might want to go to in conjunction with Rhinebeck if I get there, which is not happening this year. Wisconsin Sheep and Wool, not happening that I'm going. That's what I meant, sorry. There's a sweater workshop that Darn Knit Anyway does up in Minnesota. There is a knitwear design on retreat on Block Island that Deborah Newton does, that my friend Cheryl Hill attended a couple of years back. So that's in here. Knit City Montreal, Edinburgh Yarn Festival. So this is like the major things, the things that I want to remember, places that I might want to stay. And also in here is the Shetland, because I would love to go there as well, and so I'm keeping notes of that. And that's what this book has been designated for. My knitting journal that I bought from Briar Rose Fiber Arts, and this particular one is being designated as helpful hints, things like the helical knitting, blanket sizes, notes on that others that I've gotten from other people. For example, like Susan Rainey has given me some ideas on how to do a straight uncinched ribbing, and so I'm putting them in here, and just some reminders. There's a wrap from some black ultra alpaca that I have that I kind of put a little diagram that I might want to do just as a keeper, and then how to weave some underarm stitches. Meg Swanson's blog number 33, there's a video that shows how to do that, and just in general, just some things that like we talked about last winter, the interchangeable knitting case design, if I decided to do something like that. So anyway, that's what this particular book is for helpful hints and possible, things that I like when I get to the point of that, I keep talking about the ground pepper, taking that sort of V-neck and adapting it in many different ways for myself. So that will go in there. And then Fiber Notes, this was a book we received from January Thaw several years ago. And this one is just kind of, again, this has information in here about sweater knitting, that notes that I had put in here about building a better, for me, building a knitted wardrobe. There's information in there, just notes I wanted to keep. Some things that I've talked about on the podcast, things that I want to do for myself, like to make some better purchasing decisions, make sure that when I'm buying a yarn, that this is a versatile yarn, that it's reflecting my personal lifestyle. I've talked about that before. Do I really love it, or am I just doing it because God and everybody along the way was doing it? And I can be easily led astray on that. Does it give me options? Will it survive the test of time? Am I knitting that because everybody else is, or will I be able to wear that in 10 years and it still be a classic? And I want to lean more towards that. So just some little things that I had made notes on, that I had talked about here on the podcast before, and that's in that particular notebook. It's a knitted wardrobe. And I might talk about those things again in the fall 2022 when we talk about fall sweaters, kind of like a back to knitting school type thing. And then finally, another notebook I got from Lindsay during the Knitmas, and this one has been all along kind of like, it's separated into sections. And the first section is a kind of like a to-do list of things that I wanted to do. Like I wanted to investigate hydrangeas for my outside. I wanted to do that, and things that I needed to, to do in the house, like wipe down the baseboards, and maybe like a couple of them need a little bit of refinishing, And, you know, like I have an awning outside that the birds, you know, I need to clean that from the bird stuff. And maybe, you know, maybe do a little painting on a cart that I have outside. So some little to-do lists. I also have a little note in here about how to edit videos, which I've not done. And then the next section in it was, this particular one was beach vacations, you know, when I was eyeballing, you know, 2 years ago, possible places in Florida to go. And now it's evolved out to other maybe up north to Michigan, someplace where you're sitting on a lake. That's kind of like my my other thought is I want to be watching the water while I knit somewhere, and whether it's on a beach or it's on the side of a lake, I'm good with that. So those are some things that are in my little handy dandy last of my journals, notebooks, idea books as it would be. So anyway, I wanted to share those things with you. I'm a paper product. I'm an office product junkie. I'm a notebook junkie. I love notebooks, and I am so excited with my notebooks and to now know what's in each of them. So it's kind of my way of, you know, I'm doing this whole cleaning and purging and seeing if I really need stuff these days, because you know, when it's a party of one, you don't need as much. And it's been a while since I really did some deep cleaning. So I'm starting with our kitchen. Did that last weekend. My friend Debbie came and she helped me take some bunches of stuff to Goodwill. And then friend Brenda came on Monday night. Sunday we did that with Debbie, and Monday night she came and we took a walk around my yard to see what kind of plantings that I can get rid of to maybe spruce it up. Because again, you know, when you have somebody who could do that, that's different. But now I don't, and can't expect, you know, I can't expect it to be all done that way. And it's time for a change, for some things outside, you know, small steps of getting things done and as it comes. So anyway, I am grateful for them, both of those ladies coming, help me out. And for all the knitters everywhere who have been here for me, I do appreciate it. And going forward, we're going to talk more knitting as it is. I don't think you can ever have enough knitting friends, right? So anyway, for right now, that's all I have. And thank you for sticking with me along the way. Until next time, knit on with confidence and hope through all crisis. And I'll see you next time. Thanks. Bye.